Hey art folks, it's Sadie, and today I have a swatch with me video of a.gallo's 24 watercolor set. So this is going to be just a really simple video of swatching out all of the colors real time. I did a full review of the a.gallo paints, and if you want to see that, I'll link that below. And this is really just going to be me talking about the colors in this set. I still love these colors. That hasn't changed. Actually, this is going to be the 24 set plus Lapis Lazuli and Antique Gold, which are two new colors that are in their new, amazingly beautiful palette, which sold out almost immediately and will be available again in April. Okay, so let's get going. First of all, lemon yellow. This is just such a stunning PY3. Those of you who know me know that I am not really a big fan of PY3 in general. I really like super cool yellows. PY3 is supposed to be your cool yellow, but it's often just dull and lackluster. This is just so nice and saturated and crisp and bright. I absolutely love it. It makes me happy every time I use it. Then we have PY154, Royal Yellow. This is slightly warmer than lemon yellow. I really like the arrangement and the selection of colors in this set. I feel like you get a nice incremental change. So you don't just jump for something really cold or really warm. This is in between. And this is also a really beautiful yellow. It's super duper useful right in the middle. And it just gives off this kind of, not exactly warm, but kind of warm glow, like golden. It has a very light feeling to me. These colors, you might notice, don't move a ton at first. I feel like they're kind of really controlled colors. They don't go absolutely wild, but they give you enough movement that you'd want to see in watercolors. Next is Indian Yellow, which is PY110 and PY154. This reminds me a lot of the transparent orange colors from Schmiede. It's similar to the other yellows in this kind of soft, glowy feeling that I get from it. And I appreciate that, like basically all of these colors, it's not an opaque color. Next is PR255 Vermilion Red. This is going to be your warm orangey red. I'm generally not a big fan of these kinds of warm reds, but I really love this one. I am actually not even sure why. I just find myself using it very often. It seems really easy to work with for me. I think because it actually does really well in mixes, unlike some other versions of this red. Next is PR254 Scarlet Red. So this is a cooler red, kind of like a lipstick red. It's also a bit deeper than the vermilion red. I really enjoy how it moves on the page. Next is Permanent Carmine PV19. You'll seen me talking about this in the review, if you've seen the review, and how it's a really interesting version of this color because this is a quinacridone color. And normally when you think quinacridone colors, you're thinking off the rails saturation. But that's not what you get with this color, and I'm not upset about it because I know that it's really attempting to replicate the traditional color carmine, which does not look like a quinacridone color. And you're going to find that with a lot of the colors in this set, that they're coming from a very specific viewpoint, which I think is really cool, which is really replicating these older traditional colors. So of course, you know, I'm all about purely maroon, so it is so cool that that is in this set. You often don't get any purely colors in sets, and I find these deeper, darker colors so useful in painting. I love to have a deeper version of all of my colors, and you have a deeper red in this set. Later on, we're going to also see a deeper blue, and we have a deeper green, and it just makes getting the correct value so much easier. This is really a blood-like version of Purely Maroon. Next is Transparent Cerulean. Most of you probably know this as Phthalo Blue. And I totally understand why they're calling it, though, instead of Phthalo Blue, Transparent Cerulean, because like the Permanent Carmine, this is not the punch you in your face sort of blue color. And adding the word transparent reminds you that it is not genuine cerulean, which is definitely not as transparent as phthalo colors tend to be. If you're looking for phthalos that are easier to mix and easier to manage, this is definitely a good choice. Next is Ultramarine Blue. You guys know Ultramarine Blue. Everybody knows Ultramarine Blue. This Ultramarine Blue is really nice and saturated and vibrant. It's got nice granulation. And it's quite warm when you see it right next to the transparent cerulean. This is one of the most granulating colors in the whole set. Most of the colors in the set are pretty non-granulating, but I'm really happy to see that Ultramarine Blue retains its really important characteristics here. Because what is ultramarine without the granulation? Although, of course, I do love Schmincke's Ultramarine Finest, so I have 2 ultramarines on my palette at all times. Next is Midnight Blue. That's that deeper blue that I was talking about before. And this is PB15:1.7 and PBK9. So this is an interesting color. Like I said, I'm just happy to have deeper versions of the colors available in a set. But it's really interesting because for me, I'm like, where exactly is this fitting in? This reminds me sort of like an indigo color. It also kind of reminds me of an indanthrone color, and you know that indanthrone is one of my essential colors. It's a really nice, inky, blue-black color. Perfect for painting, well, midnight or anything like that. Next we have teal blue, and that is PB 15.3, which is phthalo blue, PG7, phthalo green, and PW6, which is white. So I'm going to be honest and say that I was not certain when I saw this color. I was like, oh man, a color mixed with white, why is this here? And I really assumed that it was going to be so opaque. And even when you're seeing me swatch it out here, it definitely looks like it is extremely opaque. But somehow once it dries, it becomes transparent. And it becomes this kind of blue-green cobalt color. I don't really know how it does it, but it does. And that makes it really useful. Next is Viridian Hue, and I also talked about this in the review. I love that this has the addition of PB29 to add a little bit of granulation to the Viridian, which you would see in genuine Viridian. And warm it up just a tad, so that it's not that crazy neon-like phthalo green color. Next is PG36, PY110, and PY154 sap green. So this is my favorite sap green of all time, ever. Actually, I generally don't like sap green. I don't like using sap green, but I love this sap green. So it has a kind of different undertone to most sap greens that you see, which are often a lot warmer and redder in tone. I really love the way this looks, and I feel like all you have to do is, well, like how most people use sap green, you just modify it a little bit with perhaps a yellow or a blue, and it makes these really realistic greens for your foliage, and I just love it. There's a little variation in the color even. It's great. Next is Chromium Oxide PG17. So this is a more kind of dull green. the interesting thing about it is that a lot of chromium oxides are extremely opaque. This is not like a super duper opaque version of chromium oxide. I know that it looks like that when I'm swatching it, but similar to the teal blue, it kind of settles down. And I feel like having this dull version of the green is also really useful for mixing. This opened my eyes to chromium oxide. I've always kind of loved chromium oxide, but I really love this one. So I'm just going through and adding the second transparency line, and then I'm also going to lift the color and do that test. A lot of these colors are at the very least semi-staining. On this page, the least staining color is ultramarine blue. All of the yellows are pretty staining, and the colors overall are pretty transparent. They're very transparent colors, which is really one of the things that I love about the a.gallo paints, the transparency and the vibrancy. These, you can really tell in painting and then looking at the paints just how finely and well milled they are. It's extremely impressive. Okay, so the next page we're going to start with Verdaccio, which is attempting to recreate a color which was created by Serenino Sereni, and I really enjoy using this color. It's sort of a raw umber sort of color, which these days I realize I'm using in painting all the time for darkening and different things like that. It is a really deep color. It's sort of grayish, sort of greenish brown. Next is gold ochre, which really is how you imagine it. It's a very golden version of yellow ochre. Just like the other yellows, it's really soft and delicate feeling. It's not the most saturated color. But I really love mixing with this color. I feel like I keep saying that all the time. I really love mixing with this color. I mean, I really love color mixing, and I feel like the a.gallo paints just mix together so well and so easily. I'm going to have to keep saying this over and over again. PY43 Raw Sienna. I'm happy to see a raw sienna. I love working with raw siennas. This sienna has a little bit of granulation to it. It's, as per usual, similar to the yellow ochre, but kind of deeper and duller. This one is also a little bit warmer. And a bit stronger. Neither of these two colors move very much on the page. They kind of stay where they are. PBR7 Burnt Sienna. So another normal color in your palette, Burnt Sienna. It has a very slight granulating texture. It's very warm and very natural feeling. It feels like it would be perfect for doing any kind of animal paintings. Next is Venetian Red, and you might be used to this color being extremely opaque, and if that's not something that you like, well then you are in luck, because this is not an extremely opaque version of this color. I actually like the opaque versions of Venetian Red, but I also really like this. I feel like you can dilute it out into a nice pink, which is one of my favorite things to do with the Venetian Red. Next is Burnt Umber. PBR7. This is another very slightly granulating color. Surprisingly, for an umber color, it has a decent amount of movement to it. And this has been one of my favorite versions of umber to work with, because a lot of burnt umbers can be rock hard. And this one like all of the other a.gallo colors, is extremely easy to re-wet. And it's still quite dark and still has that coolness which I'm looking for in a burnt umber. Next is Payne's Gray, which is PB15, PBK7, and PB19. This is a really blue version of Payne's Gray. It's not like very neutral. It's a very dark color. If you compare it with the Midnight Blue, I would say that it's slightly darker than the Midnight Blue, but the colors are very similar. I could see you using it for a stormy night or dark clouds. Next is Dioxazine Violet, which is PV37. It's coming out and punching you in the face like you would expect a dioxazine to do. It's extremely deep, aubergine type color. And of course, it's always nice to see a purple. And of course, it's always nice to see a true purple in the set. In the mass tone, if you get it concentrated enough, it can almost appear black. Speaking of black, next is Ivory Black, and it is a slightly granulating black color. It kind of gives me this kind of feeling of like charcoal or ash. It's not an extremely warm or cool black color. It just kind of feels like a neutral black to me. I know some people might wonder why there is a black in the set, but I'm just so happy with this collection of colors that it actually encouraged me to start using black and the next color, white, since the prohibition against using this was something fairly recent and only basically come up by the Impressionists. So I'm putting down a little strip of black here to test out the white. This white appeared, like most of the other opaque colors, much more opaque when I laid it down, but once it dried, it ended up being just a kind of like smoky color. Like it has a decent amount of coverage, but it's nothing like a gouache, even if you pack it on. It kind of gives this kind of ghastly feeling. So this isn't your white for highlights. This is just your white for tinting your other colors. So next is one of those really special colors. This is Lapis Lazuli, which is the genuine version of ultramarine. This is something that does not actually come in the 24 set. This is something that's available in their new wooden palette, which is really beautiful. Their illumination set. And so this is a color that is very important in illuminations and in older paintings. This was the color of the Virgin Mary. And this was an extremely expensive pigment. This still is an extremely expensive pigment. And this is the most beautiful version of Lapis Lazuli that I have seen. And it is also the version that re-wets the best that I have ever tried. It has granulation, it has saturation, it's not as dull as a lot of ultramarine ash, which a lot of Lapis Lazuli is actually ultramarine ash, and that's why it is so desaturated. This is a lot more saturated. And it's just a really beautiful version of this color. Here are some comparisons that I have with some other versions of the color. I posted these on Instagram, so if you follow me there, you'll see things like this not infrequently. And you can tell that the a.gallo one is definitely the most saturated one. They all have amazing granulation. And so the last color is the antique gold, which is also a really important color in illumination. So if you're just going for straight up blind you gold, this may not be your color. This is actually the metallic pigments plus a bit of that yellow ochre. And I really do think that it gives this kind of like antique gold feeling. It's very sparkly, easy to re-wet. It definitely benefits from having a little bit of water put on it and letting that soak for a second or two. But it's definitely a gold that goes with the rest of the a.gallo colors really well. It still has the same vibe. So I had an Instagram story about this too, and you can see the different types of gold that I have tried. The Creative Kinds one is a bit more opaque than this version, but this version is definitely still one of the better versions that I have on this sheet. And look at that shine. And just going to do the opacity lines again and the lifting. Overall, these colors are generally semi-staining. The Lapis Lazuli and the gold are not staining at all, neither is the titanium white. Those lift up really easily. That dioxazine violet is not going anywhere, which is normal for dioxazine violet. I really enjoy these colors. I normally wouldn't stray away from my main palette, which has more than twice as many colors as this one does. But I just find these colors so versatile that for most of my paintings, this fits all of my needs. And that's was really surprising to me because I didn't expect that at all. These are great quality paints. Like I said, if you want to see my full review, definitely check that out. I will have the link. And I hope that you enjoy just looking at these colors with me. Please like and comment. I love to see your comments, and likes help my channel a lot. Ring the bell so that you actually know when a new video is coming out. And I also just wanted to say thank you so much to my patrons. My patrons will get high resolution versions of these swatch sheets, as well as another swatch with me, which is gonna come out soon. So if you want to see that, you gotta get over to Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time. And until then, be gentle with yourself. Bye.